They don't want you to hear this. The wealthy, the truly powerful, would pay millions to make this message disappear, not because it offends them, but because it exposes the truth that would set you free. You were not meant to struggle. You were not meant to chase money, to fear bills, or to live small. You were born to command abundance, but the world trained you to forget it. Let me speak plainly. You are not poor because of the economy. You are not broke because of your job, your parents, or your circumstances. You are poor because no one taught you how to think. And those who did taught you to think like a beggar, not like a builder. But this message is different. This is a deletion of limitation, a reprogramming of the mind, a return to the truth that riches begin with a definite chief aim, backed by faith, enforced by persistence, and repeated until the subconscious accepts it as law. I do not ask you to blindly believe what I say. I challenge you. Examine every idea that enters your mind today, not based on whether it matches your current life, but whether it will create the life you desire. And if the answer is yes, you must act. Because the longer you hesitate, the longer you stay in someone else's plan. The longer you delay, the longer your family suffers. The longer you obey fear, the more money avoids you. But if you listen, believe, and obey, everything will change. Your finances, your confidence, your identity, your future. So hear me now. You were not created to survive. You were created to command. This is the truth they don't want you to hear. And once you do, you can never be poor again. Now listen closely, because the laws of wealth are about to be placed in your hands. The wealthiest men in the world would pay to silence what I'm about to say. They would pay, not because the truth is unproven, but because it threatens to wake up a sleeping world. You see, the greatest fear of the powerful is not rebellion, it is realization. If the average man were to realize how close he is to wealth, the world as you know it would shift by morning. You were not born to earn scraps. You were not created to bow before banks or beg for permission to rise. No, your mind was designed to create wealth, but instead you were trained to wait, to obey poverty's voice, to believe that money is the reward of privilege, inheritance, or luck. But I tell you this day, wealth is not a gift, it is a law. Most people are not poor because of lack. They are poor because of lawlessness, mental disorder, emotional drift, and failure to understand the principles that govern riches. The world has sold you an expensive lie. They taught you that if you work hard enough, wait long enough, and stay quiet enough, you will one day be chosen. But the truth is simpler and far more dangerous. You must choose yourself. And if you don't, if you reject this voice and ignore this truth, then your life will remain tied to the world's poverty program. You will keep working for less than you're worth, wondering why others rise while you circle the same old problems. You will bury your ideas, ignore your aim, delay your decision, and obey the very system that keeps you small. But not today, not if you listen. Because today you will not hear another motivational speech. You will receive the instructions the wealthy were taught but never shared. Today, you will understand that your bank account is not a mirror of your value. It is a reflection of the laws you've either obeyed or broken. Let me be clear. You are not cursed with poverty. You are conditioned for it. Every limitation you accept, every financial ceiling you tolerate, every excuse you protect is part of a mental blueprint planted in you by men who never wanted you to rise. But you can delete that blueprint. You can install a new program of dominion, power, and definite wealth, if you will listen. The wealthy do not chase money. They become the kind of men to whom money runs. Money is not hunted, it is magnetized. And you magnetize it not through effort alone, but through the repetition of wealth identity, a clear, definite chief aim, and spiritual obedience to law. Your income is not a result of effort alone. It is the echo of your thoughts, the reward of your clarity, the fruit of your mental exactness. And I tell you again, what you believe, you build. What you build, you own. but what you drift from dies. This message is a threat to every system that profits from your smallness. It threatens your old self. It threatens the lie that says you're too late, or you're not ready, or you don't know how. And that is why most will hear this and do nothing. But you, if you decide, can be among the few who not only hear it, but obey it. Because this is not a lecture. It is a deletion of mental limits. It is the blueprint for how you will never be poor again, not by luck, not by gamble, but by law. Repeat these words aloud if you can. Engrave them into your soul if you must. I was not born to earn scraps. I was born to command abundance. I do not chase wealth. I attract it by becoming definite in purpose. What I believe, I build. What I build, I own. You were never meant to survive. You were meant to create. You were never meant to wait. You were meant to decide. You were never meant to be small. You were meant to walk in dominion. Now let us begin, because every moment you hesitate is $1 left on the table, a dream denied, a life unlived. And the world has waited long enough for you to rise. Riches do not begin with labor. They begin with law. And the first of these laws is this: wealth must first exist in the mind before it can appear in the world. You cannot touch gold until you touch definiteness. You cannot hold success until you hold it inwardly, through belief, through command, through decision. A man's hands may be rough with work, but if his mind is soft with vagueness, he shall not prosper. You must become wealthy in identity before you will ever be wealthy in reality. Money does not respond to need. It responds to order, to decision, and to the intensity of your inner state. The man who demands wealth without first transforming his mind demands from an empty law. The subconscious mind is your silent partner. It obeys without questioning. It never laughs. It never argues. It only accepts, and it repeats. If you say, I am poor, long enough, it becomes your law. If you say, I am becoming rich, with faith and repetition, it too becomes law. This is not wishful thinking. This is the rhythm of all successful men. I have seen men with no education, no contacts, and no inheritance rise to fortunes beyond imagination, not because of external factors, but because they possessed something more valuable than currency, a definite chief aim backed by burning desire. That combination turns the soul into a magnet for riches. You may believe that money comes to those who work the hardest. This is false. It comes to those who think the clearest and act on organized plans. I have met men who never lifted a shovel yet raised empires. Why? Because they created a mental image so strong that infinite intelligence bowed to it. Your first instruction is simple. Write your definite chief aim. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now it must be exact. It must state the amount of wealth you desire when you shall have it and what you will give in return. Then you must repeat it aloud, morning and night. This is the beginning of mental wealth. And here is what follows. Your subconscious begins to obey. You notice ideas. You recognize people. You attract opportunities. What you called luck was always law waiting for instruction. But without definiteness, it remains still. The story of Edwin C. Barnes proves this law. He did not possess money. He did not possess credentials. But he possessed something the rich prize above all, decision with desire. He said to himself, I will become the business partner of Thomas Edison. Not an employee, a partner. This was not a wish, it was a declaration. He held this thought so clearly, so relentlessly, that his entire being became magnetized toward it. And it came to pass. You must become that kind of man, not a man who hopes, but a man who decides with fire and obeys his decision with faith. Your definite chief aim is not a poem. It is your command to the universe. It is your law. And wealth flows where command begins. The poor man speaks of prices. The rich man speaks of value. The poor man talks of cost. The rich man talks of return. The poor man asks, can I afford it? The rich man asks, what value can I build that makes it inevitable? This is not arrogance. It is the mental position required to build wealth. Every day you live without definiteness is a day you drift, and drifting leads to poverty. Every time, not because the world is cruel, but because law cannot reward the vague. The man who sort of wants more shall receive sort of more. But the man who declares, I will build an income of $100,000 by this date, through this method, by offering this service, that man begins to create. Now I ask you, what is your aim, and have you written it? Or do you merely carry wishes in your head like a beggar with uncashed checks? Write it, speak it, obey it. Do not ask for encouragement. Do not wait for support. The rich man walks alone before he builds his empire. Faith is the fire. Decision is the spark. Repetition is the fuel. You may say, but I have failed before. Good. Every success is preceded by decision in the face of failure. Every dollar I have made was first purchased with obedience to a thought no one else could see. You must believe before results appear. That is the price. Pay it daily. And now I command you to repeat these affirmations, not softly, but with conviction. I am the type of man wealth seeks. My aim is definite, and the riches I seek are already seeking me. The riches I desire are attracted by the order I command in thought. Say them daily. Say them when it feels pointless. Say them when you doubt. Say them until your mind can no longer accept poverty. That is when money comes, not before. Let us be clear. Riches will not obey the man who negotiates with doubt, but they will bow to the man who commands with spiritual exactness. Your mind is not for worrying. It is for instructing. And the first instruction is your chief aim. Until you write it, speak it, and obey it, wealth shall remain a rumor. But once you do, it becomes your reward. Now begin. The poor man waits. The rich man moves. That is the difference. The man who is poor in wallet is first poor in decision. You may believe you are waiting for clarity, but wealth does not obey clarity. It obeys certainty. The moment you become decisive, life begins to follow your command. Wealth does not flow to hesitation, it punishes it. Every time you pause to ask the world for permission, you send a signal that you are not ready. And wealth is precise. It listens only to the man who speaks without stutter. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. The universe is moved by men who have moved themselves. The man who waits until he is ready never begins. And the man who never begins never learns. And the man who never learns never builds. You are not poor because of failure. You are poor because of indecision. And until you remove that from your life, riches shall remain out of reach. Let me show you. Henry Ford was called a fool. His own engineers said the V8 engine could not be done. But Ford did not ask for opinions. He gave orders. Build it, he said. And when they told him again it was impossible, he replied, build it anyway. That is decision. That is why he became a builder of empires, while others became critics. Every opportunity obeys speed. Wealth does not wait for men to gather courage. It rewards the man who moves in its direction before others believe. And if you wish to become wealthy, you must become that kind of man, the kind who moves without applause. Now hear this. The world is not short on riches. It is short on men who are decisive enough to claim them. The man who builds riches does not do it by being the smartest or the fastest, but by being the most certain. Certainty commands power. I ask you plainly, how many fortunes have you forfeited because you delayed? How many ideas have died in notebooks because you failed to move? How many times did you wait for signs instead of being the sign? You must become a man who moves daily with clarity, with decision. If you want money, you must build a system that respects motion. Decision must not be a moment. It must be a habit. Here is the formula. Decision plus organized plan plus daily movement equals magnetic wealth. And I say magnetic because wealth does not trickle. It is drawn to order. Every dollar seeks a man who knows where he is going. If you begin today with nothing but a written chief aim and back it with daily decision, you are wealthier than the man who inherited millions but lives in drift. Because riches gained without discipline always return to the wind. So ask yourself now, not next year, not next week, what shall I build? What must I become? When shall I begin? And if the answer is not now, understand this: you are still undecided, and the undecided man shall remain unpaid. Listen to me carefully. There are men of lesser ability, lesser education, and lesser background than you who now enjoy lives of freedom. Why? Because while you hesitated, they decided. The poor man waits to feel ready. The rich man acts from decision. And decision is not a feeling, it is an order issued from within. You must stop consulting your feelings for permission. Feelings follow facts. And the first fact you must install is this: I am a man who finishes what he begins. You must move forward before confidence arrives. You must decide before certainty appears, because the man who finishes first is the man who never stops. Repeat these words: I am decisive. I move without fear. Wealth obeys my certainty. The man who finishes first is the man who never stops. I do not wait to feel ready. I act from decision. And let those words become your daily rhythm. Set your schedule based on your decisions, not your doubts. Choose one aim. Move toward it each day. Do not ask for permission. Do not wait to be seen. Decision sees itself through. And I tell you now, the moment you act with finality, money begins to obey, not because it is magic, but because it is law. The law of compensation pays those who choose and obey their aim with discipline. The world is not withholding money from you. It is withholding it until you become the kind of man who commands it. Decision makes you that man. Hard work is the idol of the man who does not understand law. He swings the axe from dawn until dusk, while another who thinks with purpose and organizes with intelligence earns in minutes what the laborer earns in months. This is not injustice. It is the difference between sweat and structure, between hustle and harmony with the laws that govern wealth. You have been told, work harder. But I tell you, the field is full of men who work until their hands crack, and still they die poor. It is not effort that builds wealth. It is effective thought, specialized knowledge, and controlled attention. You must become accurate in aim, not merely busy in motion. Andrew Carnegie did not become one of the richest men by working harder than the factory worker. He became rich because he understood the power of organized knowledge, delegated wisely, and trained his mind to think in terms of leverage. Wealth obeys structure, not sweat. The man who says, I'm always working, is often the one who is always struggling. He confuses activity with advancement. But the man who asks, what is the one action today that produces the greatest result? That man begins to multiply time, income, and influence. Efficiency is the seed of wealth. Specialized knowledge is one of the cornerstones of riches. And yet it is often ignored by those who labor endlessly. You must find that which you do best and become definite in it. Your wealth is not in the number of hours you work, but in the value of what you create. You must trade value, not time. I tell you this with all clarity. Money flows to precision, not exhaustion. The man who multiplies his knowledge, directs his attention with force, and moves with strategy, he becomes unstoppable. He builds not just income, but empires. Let me give you a command. Stop scattering your attention. Begin today to fix your attention on one worthy aim and pursue it with accurate thinking and daily planning. The man who does this becomes a man who is paid richly for every thought he holds. Let me show you the example of Charles M. Schwab. He began as a stake driver, but he studied, thought, improved processes, and positioned himself so effectively that he became the president of Bethlehem Steel. He did not simply work hard, he worked with organized intelligence, and that, not effort alone, brought him fortune. You must control your attention, guard your mind like a vault, Every moment you give to idle thinking or useless distraction is a theft from your wealth. Your mind is your capital. Train it to think in systems, not just steps, in leverage, not just labor. Now repeat this truth to yourself. I do not trade time for money. I command money through value. I train my attention. I control my direction. I multiply my effectiveness. My mind is my capital. My value is unlimited. These are not phrases. They are mental instructions. Say them until they become your habit. Repeat them until your subconscious responds by presenting you with ideas, plans, and associations that reflect wealth. Now remember this. Your current income is not the limit of your value. It is the reflection of your current awareness. As you expand your mental order, your wealth must follow, but only if you act on it daily. Do not confuse motion with progress. Do not confuse struggle with significance. The world does not reward you for being tired. It rewards you for being precise. Every great fortune was built not by work alone, but by thought applied with persistence. Train your mind, specialize your knowledge, control your attention, organize your plan, then move, and riches will not resist your presence. They will obey your command. Riches do not fall from the sky. They do not arrive by accident. They are not gifted to the lucky. They are created by law. There is no miracle in wealth, only obedience. You do not beg for riches. You earn them by alignment. The man who understands this stops wishing and starts working with spiritual precision. Let this be burned into your mind. Wealth is the visible expression of invisible laws. If you do not yet have money, it is because you have not yet aligned with the laws that create it. It is not your boss, your city, your family, or the economy. It is your inner structure. Riches cannot violate law, but you can violate it by drifting, by doubting, by disobeying its rhythm. The first law is cosmic habit force. This law states that anything you do or think repeatedly with belief and emotion becomes automatic. You are wealthy or poor not because of a single act, but because of a daily rhythm. Your thinking has a pulse. If it is chaotic, your finances are chaotic. If it is ordered, your finances grow. Consider this. Every thought is a seed. Every repetition is water. Every emotion is sunlight. What you plant in your mind with intention and feed daily becomes law within you. You are not praying for wealth. You are programming it. And the programming is mechanical. It matters not whether you feel it. It matters whether you repeat it. The mind obeys repetition more than it obeys emotion. This is why autosuggestion works. It is not mere positive thinking. It is the daily application of law. You speak what you wish to become until your subconscious can no longer resist believing it. If you still live in scarcity, it is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. You have obeyed the wrong rhythm. The law has been working against you because you did not give it the right command. That ends today. You must now choose new instructions. Write your definite chief aim. Repeat it aloud every morning and night. Visualize its completion. Move daily, even if the steps feel small. Refuse to contradict your aim with doubt or delay. This is not motivational fluff. This is the exact sequence that creates wealth. And I say again, it is not optional. The man who obeys this rhythm creates riches. The man who ignores it begs for results that never arrive. Let me tell you why many fail. They treat wealth like luck. They speak affirmations once, then wonder why nothing changes. They write their goals, but never look at them again. They move once, then retreat. They do not live in law, they visit it. And the law rewards only those who dwell within it. You must become permanent in purpose, unshakable in belief, obedient in repetition. There is no room for double-mindedness in the realm of abundance. The law gives to the man who has made himself definite. Now repeat this, not as suggestion, but as instruction. I live by law, I rise by rhythm, I grow by repetition. Wealth flows to the mind that moves by order. Every day I repeat truth, I multiply power. And if you say it daily with fire in your heart and obedience in your action, your life will begin to change. Not by wish, but by law. Every penny you receive will be the reflection of a rhythm you installed, and every fortune you build will be the echo of a mind that moved in harmony with truth. You do not need luck. You need law. And today, the law is now in your hands. Poverty is not first a condition of wallet. It is a condition of imagination. It begins not with empty hands, but with limited thoughts. The man who believes he is poor is, and the man who believes he is rich before he sees a dollar has already built the foundation of wealth. Understand this: you cannot rise above the image you hold of yourself. Let us be clear. No child is born afraid of riches. Fear is taught. Doubt is installed. Poverty is programmed by repetition, by hearing, "We can't afford that." That's not for people like us. Money doesn't grow on trees until your mind chains itself to the prison of lack. This prison is invisible, but its bars are real. I call them the 6 ghosts of fear. And the first is the fear of poverty. It is the master fear because it controls every decision. It makes men say no to opportunity, yes to safety, and run from every chance to rise. It causes them to shrink, apologize, and conform. It paralyzes greatness. But I tell you now, fear is a liar. It speaks with the voice of logic, but it is the voice of death. It will tell you to be reasonable, to wait, to settle. It will dress up in the disguise of your friends, your family, your memories, but you must rise up in the courtroom of your own mind and sentence fear to death. Look at Woodrow Wilson, frail, often sick, misunderstood. Yet he became a president, not because of his body, but because of his mind. He obeyed faith. He spoke vision. He acted in principle, and the law rewarded him. So what is your excuse? You must understand that poverty is not a circumstance. It is a decision repeated until it becomes identity. And just as it was installed, it can be replaced. Here is your task. Identify every phrase you have spoken or believed that aligns with poverty. Replace it with definite wealth-creating instruction. Repeat it until your mind no longer hesitates to receive it. Your subconscious does not care whether you repeat truth or lies. It obeys repetition. And what you repeat, you believe. And what you believe, you build. So now say this: I outgrow the fear of poverty. I am not broke. I am becoming. What I speak daily, I believe. What I believe, I become. I am not small. I think in riches, and riches form in return. You must feed these instructions into your subconscious daily, as if your life depends on it, because it does. The man who reprograms his mind becomes immune to fear. He walks in command. He does not obey his past. He builds his future through deliberate belief. And let me make this plain: you will never out-earn your identity. If you see yourself as a struggler, a survivor, a man who barely gets by, you will sabotage every blessing that attempts to enter your life. But if you see yourself as a builder of riches, a commander of law, a trusted steward of wealth, you will rise, not by chance, but by mental law. Remember, riches do not change who you are. They reveal who you were programmed to become. If you were raised in scarcity, you must rewrite your image. If you were taught to play small, you must declare your greatness daily. Poverty is a prison, but the door is open. Walk out with decision. Refuse to apologize for your desire. Refuse to entertain doubt. Refuse to speak as the poor speak. Speak as the wealthy do. My thoughts create structure. My belief builds supply. My words shape gold. Every day you must repeat what you wish to become until your subconscious believes it more than your past. And once it does, your world will shift. For what the mind builds internally, the world obeys externally. This world does not reward caution. It does not reward doubt. It does not reward those who wait to be chosen. This world, this system of laws, both seen and unseen, rewards belief. Unapologetic, immovable, convicted belief. The kind of belief that acts while others talk. The kind that walks by faith and not by sight. Let me speak it plainly. Money flows where belief leads, not to the educated, not to the connected, not to the careful, but to the certain. It moves toward the man who declares what he shall have, and whose actions match that declaration with discipline. All success begins in the unseen, and the man who knows this lives differently. He does not wait for evidence to believe. He provides belief until evidence is forced to appear. That is the power of faith in action. It bends reality. It shapes conditions. It draws to itself people, opportunities, and outcomes that the man of doubt will never experience. Thomas Edison did not have proof that the electric light could be born. He had 10,000 reasons to quit. But he had one invisible force that kept him from breaking: belief. Not the belief that it would be easy, but the belief that it would be done. You must believe not only that you can succeed, but that you must. That what you are building is not optional. That it is a command from your higher self. That your future, your family, your purpose require your success. You must move as if what you desire is already yours, and then act until it is so. This is not fantasy. This is law. Infinite intelligence responds not to fear, but to decisiveness. It obeys faith. It respects persistence. And it moves to fulfill the vision of the man who sees first in mind and then insists upon it in form. So let me ask you, what have you dared to believe? Have you written your vision? Do you speak it daily? Do you hold it when no one claps, when no one agrees, when even you feel like quitting? If you do not, then your belief is not yet belief. It is wish, and wishes build nothing. Write this down. I believe so fully my actions match my future. My mind magnetizes wealth through the strength of my belief. I do not hope I know. I do not doubt. I declare. These words are not to be spoken once. They must be planted daily, like seed in rich soil, and every repetition becomes a root, and every action becomes a leaf, and eventually the tree must bear fruit. Belief is a seed, and action is water. The combination births riches, not overnight, but inevitably. And the man who understands this outgrows doubt forever. There is no more waiting, no more seeking signs, no more asking for permission. Believe with force, move with intent, speak with authority, and you will become the kind of man wealth cannot ignore. You cannot walk into riches with the same identity that kept you poor. The man who receives wealth must not merely do more, he must become more. For riches do not cling to the hesitant, the weak-willed, the undefined. They obey the man who has become definite in thought, in purpose, in identity. Let me state it as law. You will never hold what you have not become. A man may stumble into fortune by chance or inheritance, but if his mind is unprepared, the riches will vanish like dust in the wind. This is why the lottery winner often returns to poverty, because his bank account changed, but his identity did not. The mind governs the reality, and the man you see yourself as, deep in the inner chambers of thought, is the exact man life will reflect back to you. If you still think in struggle, you will struggle. If you still think in survival, you will survive. But if you think and speak in dominion, in value, in decisiveness, you will rise. How do you do this? Through daily identity programming. You do not wish a new self into existence. You do not wait for the world to call you worthy. You command your mind. You give it new orders every single day, and you reinforce it through repetition, emotion, and aligned action. Every morning before the world distracts you, declare, I am not the man I was. I am the builder of wealth. I am trusted with riches. I move with purpose. I think in systems. I live in order. You must speak these words until they feel real, until they replace the old image. And then act as this man, dress as him, decide as him, say no to what does not belong to him, and soon enough, your environment will obey the identity you have constructed. Now add to this the power of the master mind. Surround yourself with men who challenge you, who think higher, who refuse to tolerate mediocrity. A single conversation with a man of definiteness can be more valuable than 10 years of average thinking. If you are surrounded by those who drift, you will drift. If you are surrounded by those who build, you will build. Your identity is influenced by the mental company you keep. So choose wisely. Let your mastermind become your mirror and your multiplier. Identity is built, not given, and wealth is a servant to identity. Say this with me: I do not visit wealth. I live in it. I belong to it. I do not pretend to be rich. I become rich by becoming a new man. Every thought builds the man. Every man attracts the life. These are not empty affirmations. These are commands. And when repeated with fire and followed by faith-backed action, they rewire your rhythm. They become habit. And once you are habitual in thought and definite in aim, wealth can no longer escape you. You must become the man before you hold the reward. And when you do, all else will follow, because the law must obey the identity that repeats itself with conviction. The final law is this: what you obey multiplies. Obedience is not submission. It is alignment with eternal law. The man who obeys a definite chief aim, who obeys faith, who obeys repetition, he does not hope for riches. He commands them through who he becomes. And when his obedience becomes identity, overflow is inevitable. You were not born for crumbs. You were not made for scraps. You were not placed on this earth to survive paycheck to paycheck, running from bills and bowing to the fear of lack. You were born to command abundance, but you will never receive it through part-time commitment. Only the obedient shall walk in overflow. Let me ask you, do you remember the laws? Do you remember the law of definite chief aim? Have you written it? Are you speaking it aloud every morning and night as I instructed? Have you memorized the 6 steps for desire as laid out in Think and Grow Rich? Do you remember the law of cosmic habit force, that your repeated thoughts, words, and actions become your new reality? Do you remember that faith, not time, activates infinite intelligence? That belief, backed by daily movement, bends all conditions into your favor? Do you remember the law of identity? That who you are becoming is the real magnet of wealth, not what you're doing, but what you're becoming. Or have you listened once, nodded in agreement, and returned to the same rhythm that has kept you poor? If you cannot answer with certainty, then you must listen again and again, until these truths burn into your bones, until they override the old identity, until they become second nature. Wealth is not the reward of inspiration. It is the consequence of